last name ever since I've seen it printed. I'm sorry.
All right. Is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda? The one item I would bring up is for anyone who's interested, on the 22nd, which is Thursday, we will be presenting, I guess I will be presenting, and anyone else who wants to join me before the Montana Transportation Commission to propose the naming of the Higgins Avenue Bridge as the Bear Tracks Bridge. So hopefully that will go well on Thursday.
Good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Anything else in terms of non-agenda items? Okay, let's roll right in. Lisa Beskevich, what do you have for us this morning?
Well, I just want to say thank you. Everybody has pronounced my last name correctly this morning, and that's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you for saying my name correctly. That's pretty cool.
Lisa Beskai Witt.
Now you're just butchering it for the fun of it. This is not Scrabble.
Just don't ask me to spell it, Lisa.
Okay, just don't look at it when you spell it. That's all I have to say. So yeah, I'm here today to present to you a contract that's long overdue, but very important. It's a PSA with Partnership Health Center, and it comes down from DPHHS, and it's our chronic disease prevention health program. And what it is it's the cancer control program where they go in and do breast and cervical cancer screening for women. And then they also do chronic disease self-management programs within Missoula County within our community. And they're really working also at PHC, doing a lot of work around diversity, inclusion, and equity. So making sure that we're reaching the populations that need these screenings and the most. So they've done a great job. Colleen Hufford and Jessica Seach lead this work at Partnership Health Center, with Abby Burrow being the supervisor there. And so this is the contract.
Is this for PHC's clients? I'm not quite sure I understand how it works.
So it pays for the staff to do outreach within the community. And yes, it will be bringing clients into the clinic. So yes.
Great, thanks.
And and it's in fiscal year 21, so July 1 through June 30th, and we'll be getting a new contract here in the next month for the fiscal year 22.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I'd move we approve and sign the PSA between the health department and PHC.
Second.
Any further discussion or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have
Lisa.
a great day.
You bet.
Okay.
Okay, Julie Moore, we have a request to approve and sign MDT, actually a Montana Department of Environmental Quality contract 521006.
Good morning, this is Julie. We actually submitted this contract to you and you approved it on March 16th. However, at the time, we did not know that DEQ actually was revising attachment A to the contract. So the 15 pages of the contract itself are unchanged, but the 5-page attachment A has about 10 different revisions in language. They're not substantive. 9 of the 10 simply changed the word contract to grant, and there's one other small change. But we consulted with Brian West after you had signed the contract and we were getting ready to send it back to DEQ for final signature. And for sort of housekeeping purposes, for proper tracking of the change of the attachment in your record, he advised that we bring the entire agreement and the revised attachment back to you to be signed again. So we're asking that you sign the contract one more time. This time it has the correct attachment included.
Thanks for catching all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been quite a contract.
Oh, I move that the board approve and sign the MDT or DEQ contract with Missoula County Health Department.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on this controversial change? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Shane Stack, contract amendment with DJ&A.
Good morning, commissioners. Yeah, I've got the next two items. So this first one is the Mullen Build 100% design contract with DJ&A. The original contract ceiling was $1,537,175. We went through multiple changes, and I'll cover those briefly, but the new contract ceiling would be $1,724,106. So some of the changes, oh gosh, there's a bunch of them. And when we originally started this, I think there were some unknowns, and as you get into design detail, you kind of figure out some of those unknowns and you get some answers. And sometimes they're added cost, and in a few cases we actually had a reduction. So I'll run through a handful of these. The main ones were we worked and partnered with MDT. They have a HSIP, or Highway Safety Improvement Program funding, and what we had done was ask them if they could fund the signal improvements at Broadway and Mary Jane. And so they are providing, I don't know, in the neighborhood of $700,000 for that signal improvement, but we had to design the signal. So that was an additional $50,000 just for the base signal, and then there were a handful of additional costs associated with that related to like lighting and surveying and things like that. So that was kind of a big cost. We also had NEPA. We completed NEPA back in November, but we still, because we ended up with some changes in the design, we ended up having to do a reevaluation, and that cost some money. And then there's just a handful of odds and ends in here that ended up rounding out to that $180,000 worth additional costs. So Jeremy's reviewed this at the city, and he's comfortable with all the changes and the costs. We just need to go through the formality and make sure that we raise their ceiling to make sure they get paid. So, any questions?
So the proverbial question, how will the additional costs get covered?
Yeah, so we have the county has a ceiling of $800,000 on this project, and then the city is providing $5.5 million in funding for the project. And so what we're doing is covering all the PE costs, right-of-way costs, all of the kind of the pre-construction activities will be funded with city and county funds. But we still have to get to the GMP, and then we'll, I guess, evaluate where we're at once we get a guaranteed maximum price to see how we're going to fund construction. So.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
Nope. That was $75,000 signal change. Is that what was?
Yeah, I would look. Let's see. So it was 50,000 and change just for the basic signal. Sioux survey was probably another 7,000-8,000. Lighting design, another 4,000 or 5,000. So yeah, all those little costs add up. I don't know how much all went onto the HSIP project, but yeah, it adds up.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. What do you think?
I'm all good. I would move that the board approve the contract amendment to the 100% design build with DJ&A.
Second.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hey, Shane, street sweepers.
All right. So this next item is, I guess the long story is the CMAQ program is how we fund street sweepers at the county, which is a kind of a nice program to have. One of the challenges, though, that comes with CMAQ is that it's federal funding, and if we are going to purchase equipment through the federal funding program, it has to meet Buy American rules, which has some requirements with the amount of steel and how much it's constructed and parts and things like that that are made in America, where how much of it's constructed in the United States. So it has to meet those requirements. And as I understand it, there was a challenge in trying to find street sweepers that actually met those requirements. So for a few years, we did not purchase any sweepers at the city or county. Brian Hensel at the city came up with the idea of, why don't we just lease and use the CMAQ money to lease? There's no requirement on leasing the equipment as far as lease American. So it's just buy American. So a good way to get around it. So we have an agreement with MDT, and they will essentially through CMAQ fund a maximum of $173,000, $160, and we at the county would be responsible for the remaining $26,840 for the total of $200,000. That $200,000 amount is actually just the kind of the maximum amount the CMAQ program and local funds are available annually. I know we talked about this yesterday at the Public Works update. So when we get the lease numbers in, it's likely that they'll be less than that 200. What this does is it gives us that $200,000 ceiling. And so what we'll do is we'll lease for a year, and we'll determine if we want to continue with that lease or not. I looked at prices from recent sales on the equipment we wanted. So the two sweepers we're trying to lease, and we've spec'd out these particular products. There's no guarantee that we'll get leases on these, but they're spec'd to kind of try to get these pieces of equipment. The first one's an Elgin Broom Bear, and in 2018 we purchased one for $223,000, and then the other one was a Swartz A7 Tornado, and that was purchased for $209,000 in 2018. So that gives you an idea of how much the purchase prices are on these things. And so for, leasing of $200,000 per year, let's say it's that amount, you should be actually go out and be able to buy these things for 2 years on a maximum ceiling lease, right? I'm assuming that these leases are probably going to be considerably less than $200,000 for both pieces of equipment, but we'll find out. And if the numbers are that bad when we get the lease numbers, we don't have to lease it. I think we can still say no. This just gets us to the point where we get some numbers in.
Yeah, so it's 100,000 for one, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
that just sounds like we're getting screwed.
These numbers sound horrible.
Yeah, it's a ceiling. It doesn't mean that the lease numbers are going to come in at that 200. I mean, it's entirely possible that it's 100,000 a year. So we'll see what the numbers are, and if they're that off the mark, then we don't have to lease. This will just the numbers.
And you said the lifespan of a sweeper is only 5 years?
Yeah, before they really start coming apart. And, the sweepers we have today, we're spending quite a bit of time and effort just trying to keep them up and running. So they don't last that long.
So another thought here, and yeah, I mean, it makes sense to proceed as you proposed for the time being, but we will likely be utilizing the services of a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. to try to make the case to bring home the bacon here to Missoula County. And Ann, I see you're out there. You ought to put on the running list of things to maybe work on with the administration and our delegation to change the Buy American provisions that would actually allow us to have some options for outright purchasing equipment.
Yeah, on street sweepers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, on street sweepers.
All right, I'll add it.
Thanks.
And back trucks and and crushers.
Yeah. Gravel crushers, that'd be good.
Well, and the nice thing is, we're the only time we're using the CMAQ funds are to purchase flush trucks and street sweepers. So the rest of the equipment we purchase, we're not having to worry about this Buy American. It's just when we use the CMAQ funding. The other thing I'll tell you is we are going to demo a street sweeper. I think it's either this week or next week. And they claim to meet the requirements for Buy American. And so if we demo this sweeper for a day or two and we like it, one of the options we might have is just say, hey, we don't want to lease, let's just purchase 2 of these.
Great.
So
Great.
Yeah. Okay, in the meantime, what do you think about the lease?
Oh, well, yes, I motion that the board approve the lease for 2 sweepers, which will cost Public Works $26,840 annually, and MDT will fund an additional $173,160 annually through the CMAQ program.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, Shane. All right. John Hart, you're with us once again with an improvements.
Yeah, just like April showers, which we're not getting this year, we are getting a lot of subdivision improvements agreements and guarantees. Good sign for development in Missoula County. The agreement that I have in front of you this morning, commissioners, is one for the developers of St. Lawrence Estates. This is a subdivision that was given preliminary approval by the board July 2nd of 2020, and now they're ready to plat. That is less than 12 months. That seems like a pretty quick turnover for a subdivision. That's a good sign too, I think. However, this particular subdivision does not have all the required improvements installed. And there are the improvements that are remaining consist of constructing Ledge Rock Drive, doing some access remediation on lot 5 of the subdivision. And then there's some other miscellaneous things that need to be done.
Hey, John, I'm sorry, I can't remember where this is.
You and me both, Juan. I have absolutely no idea what it is. It's somewhere in Missoula County.
That's good. That's good.
That's good. Then we're
sorry.
Not,
I do
not
not know where
overreaching
this
then.
subdivision is, and I don't remember it either. I mean, I'm
remember
sure
this.
I was at
I
the
don't
public
like this.
meeting where it was approved, but I don't remember.
July 2nd. It was the day after I was appointed, and I have no memory.
That's okay. But it was an approved subdivision, so that's a good.
They have a letter of credit from a bank of note.
Yeah, they do, Josh. The estimated costs of the improvements remaining are $48,605, and the developer, Kirk Mace, has had First Security Bank issue a letter of credit to Missoula County for that exact amount of money. The other elements of the agreement and guarantee are in order. I've signed it. I recommend that you sign it. The developer is guaranteeing that these improvements will be completed by March 2nd of 2022. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions except for the exact location of this subdivision.
All right. Any questions?
Good. Sounds like they've done what they needed to do to make this extension happen.
Was that a motion, Josh?
If it is, I would move number 5.
Okay.
That's second.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.
Okay, correspondence today. We have a couple of letters to the governor requesting his veto on HB 112 and SB 257. Anyone out there like to speak to these? Ann.
Hi. Yeah, we just have these prepared. Neither are transmitted to the governor yet officially, but we have them ready for your signature should that happen.
Could you remind everyone what these 2 bills are?
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize for that. I just looked right past that little detail. HB 112 is the require interscholastic athletes to participate under sex assigned at birth. It's the
transgender bill.
An anti-trans bill. We've of course lobbied against this bill numerous times throughout the session. It's in Senate Conference Committee today. And then the other is, and Diana's on, and I think I see Diana on. SB 257 is prohibit local governments from imposing carbon penalties, fees, or taxes. So that the next step on this bill's journey is to the governor's office. It's just not posted yet that it's been transmitted.
So, Dave, weren't you in on a discussion about this SB 257 about how far-reaching it would be?
Yeah, numerous discussions, and while the sponsors, our sponsor seems to think that our concerns are not that germane, and that it's not as far-reaching as we may think it might be. I think we've been of the viewpoint that the language is ambiguous enough that it could be farther reaching than that. And I don't know if Diana, you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think you summarized it well, Commissioner. The concern here is unintended consequences. The sponsor of the bill stated that it was only intended to prohibit local governments from enacting what he called a local option carbon tax, which I'm not aware of any local government in the state with an intention to do such a thing. But the bill could be interpreted to prohibit all sorts of other local government activities that have a result of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And so the concern is that such actions could be challenged. The hope is that those challenges would not succeed, but we could be embroiled in lawsuits, and it would be nice to avoid that outcome.
And I think our concern was, or our argument was, if that truly was not the sponsor's intention, then what's the harm in making that more explicit and articulating that in the bill itself? I have zero faith in this legislature or some of the other folks out there in the state of Montana to not use this in a way that would adversely impact us here in local government. So
I'd just like to add that I learned from our lobbyist in Helena that Representative Thane made a lot of effort to amend this bill. He worked really hard to try to get those amendments in, and he just wasn't able to do it. But it was not at all for his lack of trying. So it might be worth a note to him, just thanking him for his efforts.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Should the royal we draft such a letter?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think it needs to be a letter. I think just like a note of, I'm happy to write something for you and send it to you.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thanks for that offer, man.
Dave or Diana, what are some of the things that will be dangerous for us to embark on, though I think we should embark on them anyway in the name of sustainability if someone could challenge us?
Buildings, fuel efficient fleets,
okay, great.
Everything.
Anything that could reduce carbon could be seen as a local option carbon tax.
Yeah, I think the concern is that any of those activities, including what we already have underway to make our buildings more efficient and put solar on our buildings, for example, could be interpreted as indirectly as a fee on taxpayers. And again, that's not the sponsor's stated intent, but that could be a consequence.
John, you're going to have a busy year.
Yep. John, gird your loins.
Yeah.
Courtroom awaits. Thanks, Diana.
Yeah, thank you.
I also just wanted I emailed you this morning a copy of the Burlington Northern request for comment. I have asked Todd Seib, he drafted the letter, so I asked him if he could come today. He was unable to attend on Thursday. I have this letter on your admin agenda for Thursday, but since he was available today, I thought you might want to hear directly from him on how he drafted. Yeah.
And I have to admit, I have not yet been able to attend to this letter. So could you do a quick refresher?
I'm going to ask Todd to do that because he wrote it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
quick refresher. Hey, gosh, was it last month? I came before you and we talked about Burlington Northern as an issue. We looked at it on the map and talked about where they're at in the cleanup process. At that point, the scheduled deadline for comments was April 2nd. A few days after our meeting, though, DEQ extended the deadline to May 2nd. So as requested, we drafted a letter for you. And the gist of this is we have, a current rail yard in downtown Missoula, an area that's very desirable for residential development. Key indicators are other areas very similar to this downtown have been developed, Scott Street, White Pine Sash, things like that. And I think significantly, the area of the rail yard that DEQ says, has always been industrial is actually, it has been industrial, but it's actually been abandoned. It's vacant. And so I think that's significant. It's not an active section of the rail yard, much of it. However, if they go forward as proposed, those soils on site will only be cleaned up to commercial or industrial standards, which means future residential development would rely on the developer or taxpayers to foot the bill of additional cleanup for that kind of development. So this letter is very similar to the one that we've requested the Board of Health to submit, as well as the district itself that we're submitting, which really focuses on getting those soils cleaned up to residential levels in at least a portion of the site. So the unused portions, the eastern area, eastern fueling area, and kind of everything east of the current turntable, so to speak.
Thanks.
Thank
Great.
you.
Okay, so you'll see it. Feel free to read it, and if you want to ask for modifications, we can work on that between now and Thursday, but it should just be good to go for Thursday.
Todd, is there any leverage we have to get them to clean this up? Or just I ask.
Leverage. I think there's some good arguments to be made. We really pushed DEQ for residential cleanup at White Pine and Sash, and that was almost a instant development for residential once that was cleaned up that way. And speaking to DEQ, I think they have to take input, and they're open to input on this. So I think it's very typical of most cleanup proposals. Is the first one is definitely not the best one that could be completed. And so I think this stage is really important for us to push hard on this level of cleanup. And I'm optimistic that based on the unified voices I'm hearing on this issue, everything from community groups to the downtown master plan, the city, I think everybody is saying the same thing. So I don't know about any other leverage.
I think leverage was the wrong word. Just something. It's more strategy. But if everybody's on board, also maybe the development community and the real estate community who typically aren't involved in these issues, given the high value of this land and the housing crunch that we're in, and that those entities have voices that are listened to by the current administration, roping them in this isn't for you to do. I'm just riffing here, but it may be good if they got involved, because I could imagine the governor listening to them saying, oh yeah, this land can be developed.
I can check and see if they've submitted comment. MOR.
The MOR and MBIA and the state organization of realtors as well.
Yeah.
I can also add that the neighborhood has started a letter writing campaign, which is similar to the campaign that they did for White Pine Sash. And I think those neighborhood letters really make an impact.
Well, in some circumstances, in the case at hand, given the configuration of Helena, I think the business voices will probably win the day. So Missoula Downtown Association, MBIA, Chamber, I think those are critical.
Yeah, those cast of characters would be the ones who can be heard.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I know the Downtown Association is really involved in responding to this too. I've talked to Linda about it. So
thanks.
Thanks, Todd.
Sure.
Take your
Maybe
time.
we can get Yellowstone County to weigh in. That might help turn the tide here. So
Todd, we just got a letter. This is it's MLR and health department questions. But I can wait till the end. Are you able to hang out Tom, we
And-
get to correspondence.
You have questions for me about
What?
so,
Why
MO?
don't you just jump right in?
Okay, I'll just jump in. We just got a letter from Renee Valley, who wants to figure out who to contact, asking when MLR, who to contact at the health department or at MLR when they plan to spray the tracks with herbicides, just so that they can be aware, neighbors can be aware that that's happening, who live along the tracks.
Well, I didn't know who MLR is. MRL, right?
I mean,
Montana,
sorry. Montana Land Reliance. Sorry.
oh, Montana Land Road? They're not in.
No.
Montana Rail Link?
Rail link.
Rail Link.
Oh,
Montana Rail Link. I'm so
Oh.
sorry. Yeah. So who do you contact, or who should she contact?
I could get back to her directly. I don't have a Montana Rail Link contact off the top of my head, but
I will
they're-
connect you.
they're
Thank you
herbicides.
so much.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
something tells me the railroads will do whatever the railroads want to do. So we'll see.
Okay. I'm just happy to be able to send her to Todd. So that's great.
Here we
Thanks.
go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on the legislature? Thanks, Todd.
I don't have anything else, and I apologize, commissioners. I need to drop off the meeting, and Chris is not here, so we're kind of abandoning you a little bit. I have Jason Emery on in case there's anything that we need to take up.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Apologies.
Is there anyone out there who wants to say anything about COVID? All right. Get vaccinated. Anything else before we adjourn?
I mean, we're left to our own devices. Now we can do anything. What do you guys want to do?
No,
What's
I
up?
was put in charge. You have to be.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Can we nullify something? I don't know.
Is there any revoking to be done?
Okay, I guess with that, we're done. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thank
goodbye.
you.